person in New South Wales who has given up on the idea of ever buying your own home, who is struggling to even find an affordable rental, standing in queues around the block when something comes on the market, then you need to know about the fight that the government is currently having with some people who want to stop us doing something about it. We know there's a housing crisis in New South Wales. We're trying to put the reforms in place to actually do something about it. And this is the kind of hysterical hyperventilating that we are facing. Now, look, I get local council want to play the politics. I get that they're more concerned with their political survival than solving the state's problems. Yes, there is a local government election this year, and local mayors are playing the politics. The problem with playing the politics is that they are standing in the way of the government trying to put the reforms in place to deliver the houses that you all need to grow up and live and raise your families in Sydney. So to be clear, what the government is proposing is that when we spend millions of dollars, billions of dollars building public transport like trains and metros, those are great places to put homes for people to live in. On public transport networks, close to services, close to amenities. We know there has to be infrastructure. We get it. We get that there has to be transport and parks and roads and sewers and all of the things. We are clear on that. But what we're also clear on is that we're not going to be pushed around by local councils or local members of parliament who want to play into the NIMBY politics to stop housing, to say it threatens the character of an area, to say that there isn't any room for people to live in Sydney. Sure, we have to do density right. We have to be sensible about it. But this is a fight that the government thinks is worth having. This is a fight that is about providing the homes that we need so that we don't see more and more people experiencing forms of homelessness. We're not going to give up on this. And so it's something I'm going to be talking about a lot for the next few months.
Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. Here's today's news in the headlines. Do better. Sydney's NIMBY mayors called out amid housing crisis. NIMBY mayors in Sydney are fear-mongering over plans to unlock thousands of new homes as they're more worried about their own positions. The NSW housing minister says. Rose Jackson said some mayors were prioritizing re-election at upcoming council polls ahead of solutions to the city's housing crisis by playing politics over the state's plans. It comes after Southwest Sydney Mayor Frank Carbone claimed the reforms threatened to turn Western Sydney into Kolkata during an interview with 2GB this week. It's frustrating because it's not accurate. It's hysterical and it's misrepresenting what the government is doing, Ms. Jackson said. They are taking the easy route of playing into NIMBY politics, but it lacks courage. I think anyone of our generation knows Sydney is becoming a harder place to live or start a business. It's becoming more unequal. Fairfield's independent Mayor Carbone told radio station 2GB on Wednesday the government's proposals would mean the end of the backyard, likening the density plan to that of Indian city of Kolkata. You won't be able to put a Hills hoist in the backyard. You certainly won't be able to play backyard cricket, he said. The comments drew satirical responses online from advocates for greater housing density, such as the Sydney NIMBY page. Frank needs to decide whether these reforms are going to turn us into India or stop us playing cricket, because it can't be both. The Min's government's plans to override council zonings to allow for greater density around public transport links like the Sydney Metro West is predicted to allow 112,000 new homes across Greater Sydney, the Central Coast, the Hunter and Illawarra. It has set a target of building 377,000 new homes by 2029 this week. The Committee for Sydney released its latest Life in Sydney report, which found almost 40% of people surveyed thought their quality of life was worse than in the previous year. It found cost of living and the price of housing were the biggest challenges facing Sydneysiders, with more people considering moving away from the city. Carbone told Sky News he was supportive of more density around transport hubs, but believed a broad brush approach would change the fabric of what we see now as the family home. Ms. Jackson added that while public figures like Mr. Carbone were headline chasing, Sydneysiders were queuing around the block just to view an apartment. She said such remarks were not constructive to the debate, saying she accepted there were some legitimate issues councils could raise with the government. Do better, she said. Are you going to actively engage or go for fear-mongering? if we don't deal with this seriously. Sydney will become a place where whole generations are wiped out from the housing market. The minister said it appeared opposition to the reforms was not about party politics, with majority Labour, Liberal, and Independent councils voicing concerns. Labour's Canterbury Bankstown Mayor Bilal Al-Hayek said he was supportive of Premier Chris Minns' passion for addressing the housing crisis, but he said that passion should not ignore haphazard planning reforms being rushed through. He said, "We are expected to house more than 300,000 people, but there is a deafening silence when it comes to how many schools, preschools, daycare centers which will be needed." Mr. Al-Hayek said, "There is no mention of road improvements or infrastructure to deal with our already congested roads." The mayor said he would discuss seeking legal advice about challenging the proposals at the next council meeting. Darcy Byrne, mayor of the Inner West, told Sky News councils needed to avoid turning the debate into a culture war, but there were questions the government needed to address. The Inner West Council will discuss a draft recommendation at its meeting next week, which concluded that the council opposes the proposed reforms, and these should not apply in the Inner West. David Borger, chair of the Housing Now Alliance, urged councils to work with government to find solutions for Sydney's future, adding attempts to stop housing were really attempts to stop people. Winding the clock back to the 1950s and dreaming of large backyards in inner city suburbs or walking distance from a train station is lunacy, he said. These objections to creating more housing is just going to lock our kids out of the neighborhoods. They have grown up and when they want to get their own home. Let your thoughts known in the comments section. If you like this video, please give it a like. Thank you for watching. I will see you next time.